stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I want to welcome you to part 2 of this episode of the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Now remember, if you want to contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions, I'm available at UBG Contact on Twitter, or I can also be found as Dave Milner or Agador, that's Aggedor, on Mumblet, the Tea Party Community, Spreely, Minds, MeWe, or Gab. Now let's begin.
Yeah, the only reason they kept Turkey in all honesty, is because they have the largest land-based army in NATO. That's a fact. That's why they kept Turkey in. And they were right in very close proximity to Russia, so we could flank Russia. You know, geopolitically, it's, you know, you can go to any war college paper and find this written ad infinitum and ad in nauseum. Okay, Condoleezza Rice actually wrote the best white paper on it, and that was something that when I met her in 2005 at the embassy in Baghdad.
You met her?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're a bastard. I'm completely jealous.
Oh,
you know, she was playing concert piano as a little girl while I was watching Batman. But go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead,
well,
please.
Then that gets to the crux of it. My buddy Wilmots, I shouldn't use his last name. Anyways, I'm not going to use his last name. Anyway, so we're
classical piano. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're sitting there, and if you've been to the embassy annex, it's Saddam's old palace, and there's a room right off the main entrance area. There's a barbershop to the right. There's a room where they have like a dining facility, a DFAC, and then right there's a big open door, and that big open door had, if you've ever seen the picture of two horses rearing up to an Al Hussein missile, it's a fresco that's painted on the top of the dome in this room. If you've ever seen a picture of it, that's the room I'm talking about. And right next to the door where we're standing at the door frame was a big grand piano. And so she's shaking hands, talking to everybody, and, you know, we're at the very end of it, and there's nobody, you know, after us, because, you know, everybody's crowded around this DFAC, and we're right at that corner, and her security team and her, you know, go walking in, just, you know, for whatever reason they're going into that room or checking things out. I don't know the purpose, but this is a fact, a historical fact. All of a sudden we start hearing this beautiful piano concerto happening, right?
Oh,
and me and my brother break our damn necks to look, and it was her. And I'm probably maybe 4 feet away from that piano. And now everybody's behind us. And she played for like 10, 15 minutes, something like that, man. And it just took you, it was surreal. It took you out of the fact we were in a war zone. And watching this, she's a fantastically lovely lady.
Mm-hmm.
Breaks my heart she never had kids, because somebody like that should always have kids. Most intellectual, intelligent person. Anyways, I don't want to get into all that crap, but my point being was, you can find dissertations on why Turkey stayed in NATO ad infinitum, right? And yes, they should have been kicked out probably after the last administration before Erdogan.
Right.
That's probably about the time they should have been zipped out. But here's the thing. They weren't, and they can still trigger NATO, and that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, as we were talking, like you brought up earlier, there are, you know, look, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, numerous other countries over there are equipped and provided support by us, okay? And that's a fact. And Bush made the mistake. I watched it in real time when I left April Fool's Day from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 1991 after the war was over. And we're sitting in there, and Bush had said we're going to back up the Shia and back him up to the fullest. And he had the no-fly zone up in the Kurdish areas, and he dropped the no-fly zone down in Shia land. And it wasn't until 2005 in Al Qut, which is Shia land, where I went to a mass grave, my first mass grave, I should say, and just for documentary purposes, that what I had to do at that time. And I'm talking to my students going through becoming policemen, and everybody had lost many brothers and sisters to that time. They said they were winning on the ground until he took away that no-fly. And that's when the helicopters came in. And once the helicopters came in, the slaughter commenced. And America did not give them any force multiplication. And so we repeated a war that should have stopped under Bush Sr., under Bush Jr. And I can disagree a little bit on Obama is the cause. There's no... Look, Trump kept his promise on getting our boys out of there. He kept a promise, and he was voted, in by a lot of people to do that. And I'm kind of with you on that too, but I don't give a hill of beans for any of them, because I know we're in the end going to be back over there. But give us a generation or two to replenish good men and good women to serve this nation, without having 22 a day happening, 22 suicides of good young men and women who served over there, with the mental damage that comes from warfare. And that's really all I had to say on that, brother.
Well, and my God, man, as I said, I don't have words to say how much I respect the people. I mean, the fact, if I hadn't been the unpleasant blind guy, I would have tried to be a Marine. I'll tell you that right now. But God had different plans. But the thing is, I mean, I agree with you 100%. How we treat our people on the home front is, and when I say our people, I mean our military people on the home front, is a completely different thing, obviously. But I think from hearing what I said on EDL radio, and even from on this show, you see that I don't want these generations-long wars either, where our guys are just having to be constantly deployed and redeployed and redeployed. And that is where I think the mistakes have been made. We're in the cesspit, and we have to deal with being in the cesspit now. But there is a way forward. That is what I was trying to say. There is a way forward to stop doing that. And I think it's a way that we should adopt, because I don't want to see any more of these kids die in these crap hole places where they don't feel like they have any stake. At the same time, Kel Fritzy, who died a few months ago, once said, she's Canadian, by the way, for your audience. She was a Canadian podcaster and a great patriot. She once said, I think Canada is the best nation in the world, but I think the United States of America is the greatest nation in the world. Now, Kaiser, if you look back at history, you note that there have been great nations in the past that have steered the world. The Ottoman Empire being one of them. I wouldn't call them a great nation, because the Ottoman Empire was Islamic, but you see what I mean in terms of power. These great nations did not hesitate to act. And the thing about one great nation pulling out of an area and just saying, to hell with it, we're just gonna bugger off and leave, is you leave a power vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. Someone will step into that vacuum. They always do. They historically always,
Yep.
They historically always have. The examples that I gave yesterday were when we decided to step back after Vietnam. And it was only a few years later, in 1975, that the Christians and the Mohammedans began serious fighting in Beirut. And we should have been warned anyway, because it was in 1972 when we were just arguing about pulling out of Vietnam, when the Israeli athletes were killed at the Munich Olympics. All right, but we chose to pull back and abdicate our greatness, and others came in to fill that vacuum. Mohammedans,
Yep.
Russia, to a lesser extent China, and you also saw other terrorist groups. This was the era of the rise of the IRA, the Baader Meinhof gang, the Red Brigades, all of these people. The thing is, Kaiser,
Yep.
as much as I love our guys in uniform, and I try to do everything, whether I'm doing an Unpleasant Blind Guy show or whether I'm helping out Jeff Mitchell on EDL Radio, I always try and honor our military. Someone has to be a great nation in this world, and whether people like it, whether other people like it or not, the United States of America is a nation of people who aspire to be free. And we can, if we have the will, change our politics, change our leaders, and things of that nature. And we can project the ideals of freedom and liberty overseas. Now, other cultures may not bite into that, okay? But we can, at the very least, as a great nation, say, no, if you mess with us, if you launch terrorist attacks into our country, if you mess with our allies, let's say Israel and the UK and others, all right, if you do that thing, we will destroy your capability to make war. No, we're not going to stay in your country forever, okay? But we will make sure that you are incapable of those bad acts again. That's what I go back to making real war. See, that's what I'm saying, Kaiser. We can be a great nation that is responsible and that does not leave these power vacuums that these bad actors can inhabit. But we have to tell the think tanks, no, go off and think about something else, and we have to be prepared to make real war so that we don't have our kids and now that I'm 60 years old, our grandkids out there being redeployed again and again and again and having themselves damaged when they get back home.
And it helps destroy our families. And that's
Yes.
something nobody's talking about is the American families. These troops, when they deploy, and it's mission after mission, the divorce rate was off the chain. I've been married 25 years, thank God.
Oh,
and
congratulations, man.
Well, but I'm saying, I don't want to get into the whole rigmarole of silliness, but my point being is it affects the families. I agree with you on the power vacuum thing. The other thing I say is, besides Benjamin Franklin minting that coin that nobody pays attention to, they also didn't pay attention to the last words that he said after the Continental Congress. And the woman said, "What form of government did you give us there, Mr. Franklin?" And he goes, "A republic, if you can keep it." Because republics usually have a shelf life of 200, 250 years.
Exactly.
And we're burning on that now. And
We're on life support.
And they always fall the same way. Every republic, the Grecian Republic, the Roman Republic, all republics, the Weimar Republic, all of republics die one way, through the rot from inside, the degeneracy, the lack of common sense. People forget the first transgender surgery ever done. Do you know when that was done, Dave?
Go ahead. Tell me.
During the Weimar Republic.
Yeah, I can believe that.
No, that's true.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I'm a student of ancient Rome, and the Roman Republic lasted actually longer than most of the rest. I mean, ours is on life support. Theirs lasted 400 years. But if you look at what happened at the end of it, that was when the Epicurean movement began. You began seeing, and look, I'm not bagging on the gays, okay? I do believe the word in the Bible that says a man shall not lay with a man, but I don't believe in going out and beating up homosexuals or, as the Mohammedans do, hanging them from cranes and stuff like that. Okay, I don't believe in that crap.
None of us do.
Okay,
right.
But you began seeing a rise in open homosexuality. You began seeing a rise in well, they didn't have the technology to make transgenders, but you definitely began seeing a rise in drag queens and things like that. It got so bad in ancient Rome to the point where you get to the Principate of Caligula, and this guy was running around in dresses and stuff like that, and just a complete freak job. And he, of course, the Roman Republic was dead by that time, but he bankrupted Rome. It took oh my God, close to 100 years for them to regain their treasury, and by that time, the Principate of the Emperors was well in place, and that is, of course, totalitarianism. Yep, you're correct about republics. They don't last partly because, and it might have been Franklin that said this, and it might not. I'm willing to be corrected on this. Who said that republics have a tendency not to last because the people wind up voting themselves more and more largesse, more and more money.
Money from the treasury, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was Franklin. I remember, here's the thing, I do remember that's why the Eastern Orthodox Church is still so big. Mm-hmm. With Catholicism and the Roman Church, which was also an Orthodox church at one time. A lot of people forget this. Eastern Orthodoxy, that lasted for another, I think it was 1,100 to 1,500 years in the eastern parts of Kiev, of mm-hmm. all that area over there. And that was, all those churches were established by followers of Christ, the 12, disciples.
Mm-hmm. The apostles, yes.
Yeah. So
it was. Go ahead.
It just boggles the mind, though, that, look at the Catholic Church, how degenerate it got even up into the Middle Ages, mm-hmm. the Dark Ages, and also Cordoba, Spain. That's the last mosque of the last invasion done by the Mohammedans.
Yeah.
That came into Europe, and that mosque was built to commemorate, this is how far we've gotten there. Now look, mm-hmm. there's mosque everywhere. And what's the symbology of it? Hell, they wanted to build another mosque right down the road from where the World Trade Center was.
The Ground Zero Mosque, yes, sir.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, not everything's symbology. Everything is done for a reason. There's nothing under the sun, and I've seen some of this stuff real time for reasons I had to do. But every action that's created, you'll have an equal and opposite reaction. And mm-hmm. usually they're both funded by the same groups. And what I mean by that, the same intelligence, quote, law enforcement groups. There's mm-hmm. something called counterintelligence, CIs. Right. And so you have destabilization ops, which I kind of know a little something about, and restabilization ops. And there was a guy, Yuri Bezmenov, who summed it up best in a speech. He's using the Russian terminologies. But what state we're in right now is a state of normalization under the Russian terminologies. And normalization means you start correcting and controlling the language. You start correcting and controlling the people. And the people will self-regulate because you can't use the unacceptable words. And so these are just facts, but who cares about facts nowadays, right? They don't suit somebody's political agenda, right, brother?
Oh no, you're absolutely right, and that's been one of my big things as the Unpleasant Blind Guy has been that I've been a big freedom of speech guy. I mean, I'm even I'm a freedom of all speech kind of guy, and I was having this discussion on a panel show with Dan Butcher, who, used to who used to host his own radio network, a great network it was too. And he was saying, well, how about the pedophiles that want to talk about that stuff and everything? And I said, well, that's just okay. To me, that's disgusting. Okay. But in the public forums where you have stuff like that, you have the ability to just cut them off. The viewer has an ability to cut themselves off. Gab. I love Gab. It's great because it's 100% free speech. Now, you have really good people in there. You also have anti-Semites, racists, individuals like that. And whenever I see one of their posts, I just block them, and then I don't have to see them anymore. But the control mechanisms that are all, at least in the States, based on that 100-year-old Supreme Court ruling, all right, are being used now to direct the people towards a particular set of politically correct values, if you want to call them values. And this is the sort of thing that we have to keep people apprised of, and we have to step on.
It's one thing for a person that doesn't want to hear something to mute, to block. Okay? Yeah. That's one thing, and that's everybody's right, because you have the right to turn your channel, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is a fact for all people. I'm a firm believer in more speech, not less, because speech is the only thing that keeps. I compare it to a pressure cooker. You're boiling a chicken in a pressure cooker. You got that little tab, and that little tab will pop off to release all the pressure if it gets too heavy, too high. Mm-hmm. And that makes sure everybody in the house doesn't get scolded walking by the stovetop. Okay?
Exactly.
That's what I mean by that. And free speech is paramount to keeping that pressure cooker from scalding everybody, popping off, from the steam pressure. Here's the point, though. When the media is doing it, now think about this. You've got that chicken cooking, and the corporation comes in and welds that pressure relief valve to the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't pop off. So what happens in the end of this? I'm talking basic breakdown on Destabilization Act.
Mm-hmm.
Destabilization that's exactly what you've done. You've welded all of the pressure cooker's seals. So the only option's going to be for that pressure cooker to pop off, pop apart, break apart. I'm not going to use the words that people want me to use because that's just not going to be said, but we all know what the steam causes, a problem, mm-hmm. when it builds up dangerously, and everybody gets scolded by it. And so corporations do not, and neither does the government, have a right to limit somebody's speech. Now, you can observe it. You can watch it. Mm-hmm. You can see if they've done something illegal doing it. But guess what? Once you do that, you are now part of a destabilization, whether you know it or not, as a corporation or as the government. And that is the reason why that's our First Amendment. Mm-hmm. Freedom to associate, freedom to speak, freedom of church. It's very basic what the First Amendment enumerates. And all those amendments, those are handcuffs to the government, what they mm-hmm. can't do.
Yeah.
But everybody, they just forget that. They just, no, they're a corporation. That's okay for them to do it. Well, okay. Think about Facebook's initial funding. Mm-hmm. Initial funding for Facebook. I'm not bullshitting you. You can look it up. CIA, DARPA. It was called DARPANet first. Then it became, yeah. And I remember those days when we had DARPANet. And DOD. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And
me too.
Yeah. And I remember all this garbage going back, and when it was just EDUs, when Facebook first started, and everybody had the MySpace accounts. These things I remember. And what they're doing now is purpose-built. You have Google marching in lockstep. And Google, everybody forgets some of the players in this game. With Schmidt, you can go back to East Germany and find out there was another Schmidt, and you can figure out that he's related to him.
Mm.
Yeah, oh yeah. I did a whole entire series of breakdowns on exactly how East Germany just came to America. And how the worst of Germany in the 20s we allowed to infect academia with Columbia, with the other little place, and it was the Frankfurt School of Thought, Frankfurt, Germany. So, and that was communist thought. So everything old is new, but nobody sees it that way. They don't have the depth of perspective to understand that they're being played, dude. And this backbiting purity spiral bullshit, in all honesty, that's problematic, because that is the downfall of a republic. And that's all I have to say.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, they're not seeing the forest for the trees. I mean, they're looking at the new iPhone with the cool new camera or whatever, and they're looking at Alexa in the home, and they're looking at smart TVs, and they're going, "Oh, wow, this is really cool and everything," and they're not understanding what these agencies, they're not just devices, they're agencies, are doing to the republic here. And you're talking about also the death of personal responsibility, which there is sadly a segment of the population that likes that. They like for someone else to take responsibility. The only problem with that is that eventually that's going to turn around and bite them in the behind. Okay, because if the government is taking personal responsibility and being the big nanny, well, then they're going to require that everybody in the sandbox plays nice. All right, but that's not human nature. That's not the way it is. I'm going to say things that you disagree with. You're going to say things that I disagree with. I'm going to be kind of grating on some people. Other people are going to be kind of grating on me. That's life. That's the way life works. And it is our responsibility to then say, okay, you know what? You're a moron, but I'm going to just walk away. But what has happened has been exactly what you're talking about. That pressure valve has been welded closed. All right. And people have forgotten, and they've been allowed to forget, that my rights stop where your body and your property begin. And that's just a basic right there. Yes, we have freedom of speech. Yes, we have freedom to express ourselves. Yes, we have freedom of religion. Okay. But that does not give us carte blanche to go out there and, for instance, beat up a gay reporter in Portland,
right? Because
we don't like what he has to say, because we're, just rhetorically here, not you and I, but
right.
But because we're a bunch of Antifa freaks,
right?
Okay. Neither does it give us the right to run up on stage when, let's say Elizabeth Warren is giving a speech and beat her up.
Right.
All right. Rights belong to the individual, and those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that of course includes life, as I just said, and property. But
you have a freedom. You have a freedom of speech, but you have a right to free speech. Let me rephrase this. But not a right to be heard. And what that means is,
right,
I disagree with you, I'm not tuning into your channel. I don't care about your channel anymore. I won't listen to it. Okay, it's Moxnix. I have that ability and that responsibility to do that. Just like if somebody else doesn't like mine, turn it off.
Yeah.
Go away. I don't care. And that's another thing. There's too many people that care what other people think about them.
Mm-hmm.
And once the three most freeing words, I've said it often and many, come shit or bleed, these are the three most freeing words to give you the most freedom, besides two words, and I'll follow up with them. I don't care. And the second most freeing words that actually complete the freedom matrix is fuck it. If you can do those three words and those two words, then you're free. And that's a fact.
Well, there's also hold my beer, but please continue.
Oh, yeah. Hold my beer. That is the three words that are always going to lead to much laughter and merriment for somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So get ready to laugh. I've seen that in real life. This is back in the day. I'm going to take you on a trip. You brought this up, so you get to listen to this quick story. A buddy of mine, we're at a little club somewhere. And this is back when I was young. And he's like, hey, hold my beer. I'm going to do something really awesome. And we look at him, and we're like, oh, this guy's a wild guy, fun guy. He's cool. I'll say his first name, Randy. And so Randy goes up. He tells us what his intent was later. But he leaps on it. They had these little round tables that were, how bars were back in the day, the big tall chairs and the big tall things right next to the dance floor. He leaps onto it, but there's all these drinks. He didn't calculate that people would have drinks on there. And so as he slides across this wet table, because of course drinks and whatnot, with cowboy boots on, and skids off of it, throwing all those bottles onto the dance floor, and then hits the dance floor, still skidding, and we're like, what the hell? People are cussing him. He ends up getting thrown out, and we follow him out. We're like, what the hell was that? He goes, I was just going to jump from the table onto the dance floor and bust my funky moves. And we're like, dude, it was funny as hell, but look where we're at now in the parking lot. So, taking personal responsibility, illuminated, and we still to this day, every time we see him, watch this. That's what we always say. Watch this. And of course, it didn't pan out the way he wanted to, but there you go. So that's my story on hold my beer, watch this.
There you are. Yeah. I know. Yeah, and they fodder for many a funny YouTube video. But no, getting back to an earlier point of yours, the satirist, she's 14 or 15 years old at this point. The young satirist named Soph. It brought this up. Your point. I don't care. Okay. Too many people have practically their lives connected to their social media presence and what people think of them. And this is another very dangerous thing on a political level too. Okay. Because once you begin to allow the mob, or in some cases the culture, but definitely the mob, and absolutely the media, to be your guide as far as behavior goes, and as far as what you should think and how you should vote and things like that goes, you're in trouble. And when you begin to deviate from that for whatever reason, all right, you might be a conservative that's concerned with the disintegration of the American family, which is a big problem. You might be a leftist that wants to see the poor get more money off the money tree from the magical money tree that they know is out there, right? You might be either one of those, okay? But when you express that, and someone else comes up and says, "Hey, this is wrong. You shouldn't say that." Too many people nowadays say, "Oh, well, you know what? Let me change my mind here. No. I apologize. I shouldn't have said that I stand with Hong Kong. As general manager of the Houston Rockets. Please forgive me for that." No, I agree with you. Kaiser, people need to stand on their own morals and their own ethics, right? And if you, whether you stand with a couple of million people or a couple of thousand people or a couple of hundred, or even if you stand alone, that has to be. This is what I'm saying to your listeners and to mine. Even if you stand alone, it has to be yours, because in the end, it's just you and God. That's all.
That's it. I'm accountable to two people, my wife and my God. And if there's something out there that everybody sees that I don't care about, they can say what they want about it, because I know the facts and they don't. But that's all in a day's work for me. Yeah. And that's, in all honesty, I've been called, I'm very public because I do a lot of recruiting for different, things. And so I am a public face on certain things because there's, just different things happen. And I guess I facilitate things. But here's the problem. Because of that, I know I'm a lightning rod. And guess what? I don't care. Fuck it. And that's the difference. And the difference is what matters. There's something about successful people that I've found in my travels, and I mean this very, very heartily. And I'm talking, some of these people are successful in businesses and shit that I disagree with wholeheartedly, but I've met them and talked with them. And the one thing you find that's common is they're going to get their job done no matter what it takes, no matter how it makes them look, and they get it done. That's the measure of success. The measure of success is not brown-nosing, finding your way to the top, sleeping around or something. No, the measure of success is, how are your peers, those people that actually know and work with you, how do they feel about you? How do they think about you? Do they hold you in high regard? Or are they just sycophants that lapdog you? See, this is where things become problematic. But people who actually are successful, they don't care about any of that. If I've had people try to brown nose me on different things, and I'm like, dude, stop it. You don't have to. Let's just see how you do your thing. And that's it. Do your job, fuck. Do your job or go home.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Coach Belichick. Yeah, do your job. That's what he says. It's really interesting. If anybody's ever seen the old movie, and I've never watched it all the way through, but I understand the concept. The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. The guy who wrote that movie worked for a corporation, and he came up with the whole idea for the movie because he noticed everyone, sadly including himself, were jockeying for position just so they could help the boss into his coat at night. Okay, there you go. They weren't worried about their own success, or their success was tied to the boss. All right, they weren't worried about, or they weren't concerned, or they weren't ready to go out on their own and make a success. They just had to brown nose the boss.
Right. And I'll tell you this. This is an old player. I got it from him. This is years ago. Not getting into specifics on who this gentleman is. But he played for a college team that's in my area, the Ohio State Buckeyes, okay? And the Ohio State University. Anyways, he was given a book, and I have that book, and it's by Woodrow Wilson Hayes, Woody Hayes, and it's Everything I Know About Football. That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
You know what you do when you open it up to the first page? He had these printed, and he gave them to all the players.
Right.
So they would all know what his feelings were on everything he knows about football. All the pages were blank. And that's what I say. Every day is a new day. We had a saying in the Marine Corps, Semper Gumby, Semper Flexible. Mm-hmm. Every fucking day is a new day. And it's going to present unique and extraordinary issues sometimes. And you know what you say to it? Okay, let's take care of the small shit. The big shit will work itself out. And
Well, I find that
that's the way to work it.
no, I find that actually a great way for a warrior to think. Okay, because it's not going to be just a static situation when you're in a combat situation. You know the old saying, no battle plan survives actual contact with the enemy. When it's in your face, it's going to be different, and you have to be flexible. Or even I know this, who have never served. You have to be flexible, or you're going to die. Even I know this. Now, Kaiser, I'm going to have to take care of something for about 2 or 3 minutes. If you want to kind of do a little bit of a monologue, I'll be right back with you, okay?
Sure, that sounds fine, Dave.
Yeah, all right.
Folks, you're listening to Dave Milner from the Unpleasant Blind Guy. You can see he's a great guy. He's not unpleasant at all. It's a bum rap they gave him. But it is a funny story. And, he'll tell you about it if he wants to. You just listen to his program. He also does things for the EDL channel. I don't know what exactly where that's at, but and what to do. I mean, I know it's on Spreaker, I think. It may be on YouTube, but I'll ask him when he comes on where to find it. But as you can see, he's a regular guy just like you and I. I don't know his religion. I've never really asked him. I should ask him that. But who really cares? It's religion's religion. Yeah, But the point is that, you've heard some disagreement, but did you ever hear a coarse word said? Did you ever hear me name call or him name call? No. Guess why? This is the way people talk to each other, and have always talked to each other until this current crop of social justice. And if you think you're on the right and there's no social justice garbage, ask yourself, when's the last time you were able to speak freely and not feel that you have to self-censor yourself? Look, self-censoring, you're in normalization. At that point, when you have to worry about what you say, how it's perceived by others, and you have to worry about that, and you can't speak naturally, shit, then you got a problem.
Truth is not always pleasant.
That's right. And
Dave, that's my slogan.
I was going to tell you 2 things I just presented to the audience I never ever ask you about, and so I'm going to ask you 2 things. Where to find the EDL and the other channels that you do. I couldn't remember if it was just on Spreaker or on YouTube. I can't remember. And the other thing was, and if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, what religion you are, because I don't think I've ever asked you those 2 questions on the 3 podcast.
Well, it's interesting. I'll take the second first. All right.
Okay.
Because I'm just that kind of a guy.
Cool.
What religion am I? Well, I'm trying to be a Christian. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm a Christian, right?
Right.
And I'm not beefing with anybody who says I'm a Christian. Okay, I'm not beefing with them. This is just what I have to do for myself when I say I'm trying to be a Christian.
Right.
Because as any Christian knows, Satan is always out there doing his job.
Oh yeah.
And it's a struggle every day to maintain your Christianity and to try and be a good Christian. So
oh yeah.
That's why I say I'm trying to be a Christian. Okay.
Right.
That's the religion that I have at this point. Now.
Good. You there?
Yep, still here. Just had to fire up a smoke and didn't want that noise.
Oh, okay.
Now, I had to mute the mic for a second. Now, where to find my stuff? Okay, that is slightly more complicated.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. I'll have to tell a little bit of a story about that. Now,
Okay.
I did unpleasant blind guy episodes for about 6 years.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
It was strictly the unpleasant blind guy. And I also did EDL radio, on the side.
Right.
I was doing 3 shows a week, 2 EDL radio shows. I was part of the team. Jeff Mitchell is the host. So I was doing those. And I was doing unpleasant blind guy episodes as well each week. Now, what I was finding
Right.
was that had me working every day. I realized that I had no free days, that I wasn't working on a show, editing a show, prepping for a show. The free time was just completely gone. I mean, it was an actual job, like a 9-to-5 job at that point. So I did some praying on this because it was wearing me down. There was, again, you can't just live doing this stuff. You have to have other interests outside of making commentary and things of that nature. You just have to in order to be a complete person.
Ain't that the fucking truth? Ain't that the fucking truth? Spit that truth again. You have to have other interests other than this bullshit. Yeah, right on, brother.
Exactly. It took me some time to figure this out, and also because I saw another person who wasn't exactly a friend when they left us, but who had been a friend. And I watched that individual grind themselves down to practically nothing because that's all they did. And of course, I had also experienced this a little bit earlier on when I was extremely active in the National Federation of the Blind here in the United States. And by the way, I always have to say the NFB has absolutely nothing to do with any program that I put on. Okay, but I was a member. I was extremely active.
Right.
And in a sense, I'm kind of still a member. It's kind of like being a Marine, Kaiser. Once you're in for life.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have that tag not just from the Marine Corps, but from Federal LEO and other things I've done. So yeah, you're in for life, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but even back then, in my late 20s and early 30s, I noticed that beginning to take over my life, and I had to pull back from that considerably. Doesn't mean that I don't still steer people there when they need help in that area, but flashing forward to the end of 2018 when I took my Christmas break, I prayed on this a lot, and I just said, okay, I've got no free time here, and I'm working myself to a frazzle, and I'm not getting any sleep or anything like that. So I decided I formulated a plan. Well, again, this is I like to think this is with God's help. I formulated the plan that what I would do would be to do the Unpleasant Blind Guy on EDL radio. So now I just do 2 shows a week with Jeff Mitchell of the English Defense League radio show, and this was partly because at the same time Jeff is having some breathing issues and he needs a little bit more help with the program. So I'm happy to do that. He asked me for help, and you don't punk out on a friend who asks you for help.
Exactly.
Okay. So I said, you know what? I think we can work something out. And now, I do the Unpleasant Blind Guy on EDL radio. I help Jeff out with 2 shows a week. And then those shows are generally 90 minutes long. The one yesterday was 2 hours long, and we still didn't get to everything. But I will take those shows once they're finished. The English Defense League radio show, for anyone who's interested, podcasts live. Okay, this is where you can hear me live on Thursdays and Sundays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern in the United States. That's 8:30 p.m. in the UK. All right, so if you want to hear me live, Thursdays and Sundays, 8:30 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio, the English Defense League radio show. That is when that happens. Okay, then I'll take those shows.
Right.
And this is why I was up yesterday this is why I started yesterday at about 3 p.m. and why I finished up about 11 p.m. I take those shows and I split them apart into 3 show segments, and I put those up at the Unpleasant Blind Guy page at Spreaker.com. And my show times are still the same. It's going to be the same when I rebroadcast this episode or this show as 1 or 2 Unpleasant Blind Guy shows. Okay, the show times are going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and midnight on Saturday. And that's what's going to happen with this show is midnight Saturday. I know you'll get it up and get it finished here today now, and
right.
And it'll be out as an Unpleasant Blind Guy show at midnight on Saturday, and that can be heard at Spreaker.com at the Unpleasant Blind Guy page. Now, my stuff can also be heard on the Western Free Radio Network and on the SHR Media YouTube page. It's a little bit complicated, but it's a way that I could get everything done and still get enough time to turn around and scratch my butt.
And that is why you are the man, Dave Milner. You're the man. I have enjoyed every show we've done. Now, you just gave me a big opening. Folks, this is the first time, because I'm going to ask him to do exactly this. Whatever you weren't able to do, let's finish the show with you going on about those subjects. Out of that 2 hours you weren't able to get to certain subjects, you know what? You're in Kaiser's Castle, the safety of my parapets all around me. You see my big orange couch. You see the people sitting on there drinking their coffee, tea, soda, or their adult libation, and having a good time. There was a friend of mine who stopped over the other day and said, "God damn, you do have a big orange couch." And I said, "Yeah, it just happens to be burnt orange, baby." And he starts laughing. So the point is, we like to keep it light. We like to keep it fun. And I think we've had a light, fun show. But Dave,
it's been good.
If you want to talk about some of those things, let the folks in Kaiser's Castle have a little inkling into a taste of what you do on EDL.
Well, I gotta say that your show did allow me to do that one last thing, just without the audio clip, about the Philadelphia 76ers and what happened with those people that were thrown out and that sort of thing, and my reaction to it. It's been a great opportunity, and I appreciate it. I very much appreciate you, and that you had me on my show, or that you had me on your show, and that and that I have this opportunity. But I have to say, you have a burnt orange couch. Now, burnt orange is the color of the University of Texas, but you're an OSU fan, so what the hell's up with that?
Well, let me tell you a little secret on the burnt orange couch. We had an actual super orange couch, which I'll tell you about. That was like a half moon shape. That was even bigger than this one. Mm-hmm. It took up most of our living room. Well, onward comes my son getting into his terrible 2s and 3s. And right. This thing was circa 1970, whatever, maybe 60. So it had the fake ornate little whatever. My wife's grandmother died, and we inherited this monstrosity.
Right.
And like I said, it was a circle, pretty much, a half circle.
Well, let me interrupt you just for a second. And that is it for this time. Next time, part 3. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.